Okay, this is a shout out to the church. Um, in these last times, if you're going to be effective witnesses, your church to be effective, this is for leaders, then the people have to show the same care for one another. In other words, Jesus said that they will believe your report. So we're gathering all that we can to preach the gospel. But then the only way, in some cases, they're going to believe is by the love you show for one another. So let me show you how you can be effective or not effective. If you live an excessive life, because it is important that we don't muzzle the ox to tread out the corn. But when it comes into excess, you really now have encumbered. You have things that don't even belong to you. They belong probably to other members in your quote unquote family. That's where excess becomes way off. I knew one church, it bought a new car for his pastor every year. See, what happens in the subconscious of the believers that are following you, they begin to become consciously aware that there is a debt that has been encumbered. There's a debt that has been here. There's a car. Either you, if you bought it straight out, good for you. But if you went and got into some kind of debt, and it's a serious debt, like on your, for example, on your average place, it's $300,000. So the debt over 30 years encumbered to the bank will get about 150 to 200,000 at 6.5% over 30 years. That's a lot of money. 200,000 that went to Goliath that could have strengthened saints, maybe helped them. If the majority, especially in your congregation, are renting, then that would be what you call excess, because they're not even there. If you really want to be effective, lead from the top of the mountain, push them into their homes. You rent, and guess what? Your witness would be more stronger in the culture and in the day and time that we live in now. Most people out in these streets are not impressed with what pastors got. That witness is old, that tradition is dying. And most of the people that I deal with think that they're taking advantage of their congregations. But what I want to address is the muzzle, the ox. It means you got to feed the one that's feeding you, spiritually speaking, and all temperance and balance. But getting deep in debt, buying massive homes, for example, you're getting off in the numbers that, and wherever you are in your congregation, that's where you are. You know, if it's reasonable, you do and worked for what you get. That's feeding the ox so the ox can continue to tread the corn. However, know and beware of covetousness. If it reaches a point now where it's in the subconscious of the members, and they know now that you have inquired and brung upon yourself a debt, then they are going to feel obligated out of the law of reciprocation, where you give and you receive. It's like the fig tree. It was time to give. The fig tree wasn't about to give. It just wanted to take. So it was cursed. So the people have to give and minister to the men and women of God. That makes sense because they're being fed spiritual food. But however, we know that the tithing was for the widow, the father, the stranger, and the alien as well to partake in. When we talk about tithes, when we talk about offerings, you got Paul in Corinthians, but that collection of sowing sparingly and reaping bountifully in context was written to strengthen saints that were going through a struggle. It's time out for pastors living large. I know one that has 20 acres, and that's okay, but share some of the land with your people. If you want people to get you out of debt in a collective way, and collectiveness is the way they pay off huge debts, and so anybody else too, investors, it's a law, it's a principle, it's unification. Then you should want that same principle to operate to help others who've been renting all their lives, elders who have bought many pastors or sold into many pastors' homes, to help them through the same law and principle and mechanism of the law of multiplication and unification, which would make their burden easy because the banks is robbing everybody that's standing on bootstrap individual faith. In the end, you wind up giving them the average home $300,000 at 6.5%. You do the calculations on your calculator right now, and you have given that amount of money away to the bank, which could have, just like Acts 4:46, it could have having the same care for one another, not just respect the persons in our subconscious and our consciousness, paid off many debts, just like it happened in the book of Acts. Them that have excess or more lands that they needed sold and brung the proceeds and laid it at the apostles' feet. But they knew what to do with the money. They distributed to them that have need, so there wouldn't be any lack. So not that, and he wrote in the collection for the saints, not that you be burdened with how you gonna pay your bills, leaders, and they be free just to get a free word. I understand. But at the same time, that they not be burdened with your bills and overwhelmed, and they don't have anything not only to meet the person at the gas station that God may have them to minister to, or one of their relatives, or somebody that's very important that they have to be the pastor to. They have to be the prophet to, the apostle and the evangelist and the teacher too. And believe me, you know God ain't just about talk, because you are a recipient of God bringing people to you that will actually go in their pocket and give you something to strengthen you in your ministry. But remember, they all have ministries. And what would happen if they saw churches paying each other's debts off? It is the tradition to pay off the pastor's houses, pay off their cars, and to pay off the things that they need to this life. But you got to step the game up. They still ain't going to know the love that you show for one another if you only show it to one. So the least one, John the Baptist said this. He said, if you got two coats, give to him that don't have one. So in the collective mind, don't let a collective ego rob you by some kind of idolatrous thinking that the fivefold minister is important in everyone in there. All of them came out of Egypt. All of them came out of debt. And it is not correct to send people to work, especially getting up in age, and they got to pay for your house, your car, your things, okay? And they feel that obligation, and you not even consider that this same principle would work for them, or better yet, take a back seat, even though you're at the top of the mountain, and allow them to pay off their debts first. That would be the best excellence way of leadership. So I'm just speaking out on excess. I'm saying beware of encumbering debts and then projecting them on people that's already struggling in the places that you worship in. Okay.